Hi everyone, welcome back to It's Time, and today is my midweek share of my grocery haul for the week as well as my meal prep. And so let's jump right into what I bought this week. Okay, so here's my grocery haul for the week. A couple spaghetti squash, a couple sweet potatoes, a couple red peppers, a couple avocados, a couple onions. You're sensing a theme. Some romaine lettuce, eggs, of course, cherries. I think I mentioned tomatoes already. A couple cans of coconut milk, one for the recipe, one for the shelf. Yes, I did buy a couple boxes of macaroni and cheese. I like to have a few of those on hand just in case. I bought some living basil and some oats in case I make some overnight oats. And I think that is pretty much it. The two recipes I'm making, one is a curry aioli hamburger, and then the other one is a spaghetti squash bake with chicken. So let's get on to the meal prep. Okay, so for meal prep I have my, well, I call it a rice cooker, but as I mentioned before, it does other things, slow cook and saute and stuff like that. So I have a little bit of avocado oil in here. And I'm going to add my chicken and brown it, and then we're going to slow cook it to make kind of like a pulled chicken. Let me get this situated and get the chicken in. So I have 3 chicken breasts. I have no idea how much they weigh. It's just what I pulled out, which should be enough for me for the week. That's kind of how I look at it. I'm trying to make a meal for the week. I pull out enough meat and then I just adjust the recipe accordingly. I'm just going to season with some salt and some pepper. We'll let this cook for a few minutes and then I will flip it and then switch it to slow cook mode. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes. Let's flip these over. Probably could have been a little bit longer, but that's okay, because I don't worry about that stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to go over and prep the spaghetti squash. Okay, for the spaghetti squash, I'm going to do something different. I've never tried what's indicated in the recipe, which is cooking spaghetti squash in the microwave. So we're going to give this a try. So the first thing we're supposed to do is score this about a 1/2 inch deep horizontally. So just like you would if you were to cut this in half and put it in the oven. Sorry, you probably can't see that. I'm just making small cuts because spaghetti squash is pretty hard. So I did that side. Now let's flip that up. Once you finish scoring this lengthwise, it says to randomly slash. That sounds terrible, but basically just add a bunch of punctures so that you have places for the steam to escape. Okay, so I'm going to do this for both, and then I'm going to stick them in the microwave for 5 minutes. Okay, so I really don't have the patience for this. I think this is good enough. I'm just going to add some more seasoning, salt and pepper. I only did the one side. And we are going to switch this to slow cooker mode. Okay, so we're going to cut this in half. This was in the microwave for 5 minutes. And then we're going to cut out the pulp. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, cooking it for 5 minutes Makes this so much easier to cut. So even if I don't do this whole thing, just the fact that this part already helps, I would definitely repeat that. Okay, so let me scoop this out, and then we're going to put this in a microwave safe container. I have this one, which I don't know if they're going to fit. I might have to do this multiple times. It says to cook 5 to 7 minutes again in the microwave until tender. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I added some water. It does fit in this pan, which is great, but I'm going to do this separate. I'm going to start at 5 minutes and see how this goes. So while that was cooking, I was chopping up some of the ingredients for the other recipe, and one of that is onion. And I realized this recipe for the Tuscan chicken doesn't have onion, but I think I'm going to add one anyways because I don't want onion left over. I'm just going to throw in half an onion in with the slow cooker chicken. Might as well, right? More flavor. Okay, so this is what it's looking like after 7 minutes. It seems pretty tender. So I'm going to just transfer this to my cutting board and add the second half and put that in for 7 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to give this a few minutes to cool down, and then I'm going to shred it with a fork and add it to a bowl. In the meantime, I'm going to do some additional prep. It did not call for peppers, but I have chopped up 2 red peppers because I am a big believer in bulking things out wherever I can. The recipe called for 2/3 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. I have a jar here. I don't know if this is 2/3 of a cup or not, and I'm doubling the recipe, but it is what I have, so that's what we're going to use. And we're just going to drain this. And I am also going to add some fresh tomatoes. I'm just going to halve those and add them to the ingredients we're going to add into this dish. So I'm going to finish up the prep and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm no expert, as you all know by now, when it comes to cooking, but basically once you have your spaghetti squash cooked, you just run your fork and it creates these little stringy bits that kind of look like spaghetti. This is still way too hot, but this is what it looks like when I've shredded half. Okay, so I'm going to finish cooking the other one, wait till this cools, and then we'll be ready to assemble everything. Sauce, and it's going to be 6 eggs and 2 tablespoons of coconut milk. Add some salt. I think the recipe calls for half a teaspoon. Okay, so while the chicken's still cooking, we're going to combine everything. We're going to combine the basil. I just cut up a couple handfuls of fresh basil. I'm going to add the sun-dried tomatoes and the fresh tomatoes and the peppers, and we'll combine this and add the chicken when it's finished, and then the egg mixture. Okay, so here's all the chicken shredded. I'm just going to mix that in, then I'm going to add the egg mixture. Now, the recipe calls for putting it in a 8x8 pan. I'm going to try muffin tins. I'm hoping the egg mixture will hold it together enough so that I get almost like little mini muffins. I just think it'll be easier for portioning it out. I could put some in the freezer, etc. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I still have a little bit left over. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. Now, the recipe did say 35 to 45 minutes. in a 375 degree oven. I'm going to check at 20 minutes just because I'm doing muffins, and we'll see where it's at. Okay guys, here's what they look like after 25 minutes. Some of them still seemed a little bit undercooked at 20 minutes, so I cooked for a full 25. The leftover bits I just threw in a casserole dish and threw it on the top shelf, so it just needs a couple more minutes. But I think these look pretty good. I'm gonna let them cool and then pop them out, stick them in a container, and this meal's done. Almost all came out of the muffin tins intact. I'm very pleased with how this turned out. Now, of course, it would be way quicker just to throw it in a casserole dish. Absolutely. Speaking of casserole dish, that was the leftovers. It's pretty thin, a pretty thin layer, but that will be dinner tonight, as well as the one that didn't quite make it out of the tin in one piece. I will insert a photo here showing you the plated product. So only one recipe this week. I love how it turned out. It tastes great. I served it with a side of salad. Of course, if you just wanted to do like veggies and dip, you could do that as well. If I make the hamburgers, I will try and record that, and I will include on Saturday's post. If not, we'll just save it for another week, I guess. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this inspires you. And now it's time to get on with the rest of the week.